Let's get more on Microsoft earnings and Amazon, for that matter, from David Garrity of GVA Research, who covers the technology group. So, David, let's start with Microsoft. Big beat here, both on the top and bottom line.
A substantial beat. And the thing is, the street really didn't anticipate this. Even though you had data from the likes of Gartner saying that PC shipments were up 22% year over year, revenue expectations for Microsoft were only for up 7%. The company came in being up 14%, and this was on the basis of only having not a full quarter benefit from Windows 7. It argues that, when the street goes back, looks at the call, listens to the call, redoes their numbers, revenue estimates and earnings estimates from Microsoft have to move appreciably higher. From that standpoint, we think that Microsoft is going to be doing very well going forward from here. It's also very positive news for the broader tech sector. If we look at the semis, I think it'll be positive as far as the open in Asia is concerned as well.
Also, a good indication about what's going on in the economy, at least from the business environment?
Certainly. From the standpoint that you see that consumers and businesses are both willing to trade up for more productivity,
right.
Certainly an important thing in this environment. Obviously, to the extent that Microsoft is a major beneficiary of that trend, again, it's got to work to the benefit of the shareholders in Microsoft as well as across the tech sector more broadly.
All right, and net, we do have to hear the conference call, but a very positive report.
Yes, from all indications.
All right, and not surprising that initially to see the stock trading a little bit lower here. It sounds like Julie said last trade on Microsoft, we were seeing the stock move up again, but we did see some selling initially.
On a relative basis, the pullback on Microsoft isn't as significant as we saw necessarily in the likes of Intel or IBM or Google.
Right, Google.
And so from that standpoint, we think that people are obviously waiting to see what the company has to say at the conference call. So these are obviously the people who are just trying to get in and out of the stock before they really hear what the story is.
Did you agree with the executive, I think it was the CFO, who talked about exceptional demand for Windows 7? I mean, this is a product that folks like, and it's ramping up.
I would concur with what Peter Klein has to say, and I would also say again that in the fourth quarter, the December quarter, you only had less than a month, less than 6 weeks to get the benefit from Windows 7.
Not a lot.
Correct.
Okay. Amazon also, David, as you know, beating on the top and bottom line. What's your takeaway from Amazon?
I mean, Amazon clearly doing very, very well in terms of the internet commerce channel. Certainly what they're doing on the pricing front, it drew consumers to the site and away from the bricks and mortar retailers, even though Walmart was obviously very much trying to engage in a price war, as was others. Certainly, I think that when we look towards the March quarter, just bear in mind, this is the last quarter where Amazon will enjoy not having the Apple iPad in the market to compete against the likes of Kindle.
Right.
So in that regard, investors really have to think not so much about the March quarter, but have to think more about the June quarter and the September quarter. Also, to the extent that the company is going into their seasonally weaker period relative to sales revenues, and given the fact that there might have to be a major product refresh on an important technology item for them, what's the wisdom of buying back the stock?
Doesn't make sense to you, does it?
I have a problem with that.
Julian, I know you want to jump in here.
I do. I got to jump in and talk a little bit more about the Kindle, David. In the statement, Jeff Bezos saying that millions of people have Kindles, although, of course, we don't know the exact numbers, but also pointing out that the Kindle for iPhone app is available. And that's something a lot of analysts have talked about, that you can still access the Kindle store through your iPad, for example.
Certainly, and to the extent that people want to have access to Amazon's content, they may very well use the iPhone app on the iPad. But that said, there's going to be an explosion, if you will, given Apple's strength in terms of digital media, to see what additional content is going to be going onto the Apple iTunes store. And from that standpoint, it arguably is going to serve to draw traffic away from Amazon. And to the extent that Amazon had been trying to use the Kindle as a way to stimulate this use, this digital access of what they had to offer. If it's going to be going to iPad, I could bet you dollars to donuts. At the end of the day, Steve Jobs and Apple is going to be very intent to make sure that traffic comes to an Apple online store.
Going back to the Kindle, and you said that $2 billion stock buyback, I mean, at this point, you think that they should be focusing their efforts, their money, on a product to follow Kindle, or an upgrade, if you will.
Certainly, or I would argue that Amazon should continue to use the cash for what they've always done, which is to basically bring prices down further in this market to draw more consumers online. Granted, they think that they may be doing enough of that. I would argue that if we're looking at an economy here where it's uncertain just how well things are going to proceed from here, that continuing to cut prices is probably going to be the better thing to do to gain market share rather than try to buy back their stock.
All right, I got to run. David, great breakdown. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
David Garrity breaking down both Microsoft and Amazon on this Thursday.